Yesterday, I scrolled for 4.5 hours. Why would I do that, you might ask? Well, because 4.5 hours is the average daily wasted screen time. And this is the average for 5.5 billion people. So 5.5 billion people on average spend 4.5 hours a day on social media, streaming, messages, porn, anime, gambling, and video games. And this does not include the time you spent working or writing emails. It just includes these wasted times. The time you spent scrolling, the time you spent watching porn, the time you spent playing video games. That's what this 4.5 hour includes for these 5.5 billion people. And 4.5 hours times 5.5 billion is kind of a lot of time. If you calculate how many hours that is and divide it by how many hours there are in a life, what you get is that between 50,000 to 100,000 lives are being wasted every single day. To put that 100,000 into perspective, there are only 160,000 deaths each day from all sorts of causes, from heart disease, lung disease, cancer, and all these kinds of things. There are only about 160,000 deaths. And yet, collectively, we all waste about 100,000 lifetimes on these vices. And that's really unfortunate, because if we were to exclude the 200 abortions that are every day, it would make the social media, the messages, the porn, the single most common source of death. And yet, no one is doing anything about it. And I would assume that part of the reason why no one does anything is because the landscape of the literature, and not really the literature, but primarily the internet and what people tell each other, is polluted by fictional pro-arguments. And so in this video, I want to debunk all of the pro-arguments, pro-porn, pro-social media, pro-messages, pro-anime, pro-video games that I hear all the time. I want to debunk all of them so that there is no doubt that these technologies are evil. You see, when I tell people that my average daily screen time is like 30 minutes, or rather that it fluctuates between 20 minutes and on the very high end 1 hour and 30 minutes, when I tell people that, they all seem to refer to the standard excuses. Well, you know, we are addicted, but it has this advantage, this advantage, this advantage, this. So you can't say that social media, video games, streaming, and all these kinds of things are net negative to society. Look at all the advantages that they have. Look at all the advantages. And if you don't believe in the advantages, then you're a heretic. And I, of course, understand that most of these people are just trying to justify their addiction because they're too weak to quit. But I also do believe that there is one person here and there who knows that they should quit, that they should leave their voices behind. But society tells them that, you know, you may be scrolling 5 hours a day, but it's not that bad because it has so many advantages. There's so many advantages. It's so beautiful. Right? I don't want to change the person who doesn't want to change, because even they don't want to change. How can I make them want to change? I can't do that. But I want to help the person who genuinely continues to fall for these lies by debunking all of these arguments. And by the way, it is really a problem, because yesterday when I scrolled, the first hour was fun, if you can call it that. But after I have scrolled for these 4.5 hours, I felt severely depressed. And not only that, but I also felt very unrestful, and I had intense brain fog. And this is the daily reality for 5.5 billion people. And so we must do something. And I'm doing my part, I hope, by explaining that actually the advantages that supposedly exist are actually not real. And so let's get started with the first argument. By the way, in this video, we'll focus mainly on streaming, messages, and social media in general, because it's not that hard to explain why, for instance, gambling, porn, anime, or video games are bad. Like, I mean, just look at the people who consume these things, and it's obvious, right? So because it is most difficult to explain those things, why social media, messages, and streaming are bad, I will focus the video on that. It's going to be long enough, trust me. And so let's get started. The first and most common argument that I hear people say is that I have a 5-hour screen time because I don't want to be left out socially. Therefore, I must look at the stories that my friends sent. I must be part of group chats. I must listen to the podcasts that everyone sends me. I must have messaging streaks. I must do this. I must do that. The problem with this argument is that, and the science, as both the social science and the neuroscience is very clear on that, is that the interactions you get online are infinitely inferior to the ones you get in person. You see, when it comes to socializing, people need to see each other. People need body language. People need physical touch. People need voice. People do not really become people when all of their physicality and tonality and everything gets compressed into text or into voice or into video. It just does not work. Socializing with people is fundamentally different to making a phone call, a video call, or writing text, or just watching the pictures that someone else uploads. Those are fundamentally different things. And they are also fundamentally inferior. Because look, let's say you look at photos that someone uploads from their vacation. You could, of course, do that. Or you can meet with them and they show you the photos and tell you the stories. And you can kind of see why one is superior to the other. One, you just see the pictures and forget it. In the other, you see the pictures, you have the stories, you have the connection. There's this hormone, or neurotransmitter, I'm not quite sure. It's called, I believe, vasopressin or something like that. That is responsible for bonding between people and between man and woman. It's responsible for those, and also between mother and child and stuff like that. Those hormones just don't get released when we are online. Those only get released when we are around other people. And so from a purely neurological perspective, talking to the messages app and talking to the AI chatbot is exactly the same. It is not real. It is not real. The only real type of socializing is when you are in person and when you do something, when you just sit in a cafe and talk, or when you go in the mountains and crush everyone by how fast you're running, and then everyone thinks, wow, how can they run that fast? It's unbelievable. This is how you socialize, not. Is this socializing? Does this look like socializing? Does this look like fun? No, it doesn't. And the same, by the way, applies to distant relatives or to online friends that you have. Those are simply not real connections. And so unless you're messaging to your friends, hey, let's meet then and there, or to your distant relatives, hey, I'm in your country next month, can we meet? Unless you're doing that, which only takes like 10 minutes a day, you are wasting your time and you are pretending to be social. You fill your social battery, but also not really. It feels exhausting, but you get none of the benefits. And that's really unfortunate. The second argument that I hear quite often is that I have a 5-hour screen time because I want to stay up to date, both with the world and my friends. The thing with staying up to date with the world is the following. Number one, if you're not gonna take action, why feel the anxiety? If you know that if there is a war somewhere breaking out or something like that, and you're not gonna do anything about it, you may as well just not know it. And number two, even if you want to do something, then you don't necessarily have to stay informed, because some of the things are so important that people will start talking about it automatically. And so you don't actually need to watch anything or consume anything yourself. You can just listen to it from what other people say, and you will get wind of everything. Trust me, I've been doing this, and I haven't missed a single important piece of news. And so, why waste time when the majority of the cases you're not going to take action? And even if you do, the relevant information, the relevant events are going to be talked about anyway. A lot of people like to give me a very specific example because I live in Germany and there was a few years ago a new law that states that heating now has to be not oil or gas or something, but I believe thermal energy, or I'm not quite sure what that law says. And so basically every homeowner has to now change their heating system over the next few decades. And you may be saying, well, but that's an important piece of news if you're a homeowner. The thing is, I'm not a homeowner, and I even heard of it. And I don't watch the news. So even those very random things, you do get wind of even if you don't consume the news, just by being around people. And also, you can ask people what's going on in the world and tell them that you're not really up to date. And that's how you get another conversation starter. So actually, you get all the advantages from not staying informed, but from talking about it with people, and also letting them decide what's relevant and what's not. And if you're not going to take action anyway, then you might as well just not do it. The third argument is that I have a 5-hour screen time because I want to find love. People don't say this explicitly, but they mean it when they download the dating apps, when they build social media profiles, as I'm doing right now, by the way, and when they just write text messages. The problem with that argument is that it's kind of illogical. You see, when you rely on online things to date, what's going to happen is that you will be like everyone else because everyone else relies on online things to date. And so you will not stand out. You will actually stand out if you socialize in person and then pull in person. That's how you'll stand out. And also, the fact that you want to find love online actually proves my point. You see, the fact that people are seeking relationships online proves that we don't have functional social lives. And by definition, by extension, it means that we should go outside more often. Because if we don't, that's what's going to happen. And there's a statistic that 60% of couples these days meet through the internet. But there's also the statistic that 60% of men under 30 in the USA are single. And so even though we have all this online dating, all this social media profiles that are being built, it's irrelevant if no one is dating. Right? Now, the fourth argument that I hear quite often is that text messages save time. Oh boy, they don't. You would think that writing a text message is faster than writing a letter or an email or making a call, but it's not, because what you can transfer in a 10-minute call takes like an hour to write. And also, the fact that writing is so easy and so effortless and effectively free, more people write more messages about less important stuff. And so in the end, actually more time gets wasted, not less. The same for email. You would think that if you don't have to write a letter, then print it, then put it in the envelope, then put a post stamp on it, and then put it to the mail, that wastes more time. But actually, no. People just write so much more that it actually wastes more time. There is, of course, a way to do these things, like the messages or the emails, in a time-effective way. But most of the time, people are more or less forced by their superiors to write and read useless emails. So no, most people just waste more time on messages and on email, and that's unfortunate. And so the advantage that it promises, that you save time, is not real. So it's a scam. You know. The fifth argument that I hear is that I have a 5-hour screen time because I need to network. Networking, just like dating, doesn't work the way that the internet would like you to think. Writing messages to random people doesn't bring anything. What does bring something is you go on a trade fair, for instance. You meet some people here and there, you make a good impression, and then you get their email, and then you write them. And you write them, hey, let's meet then and there. Let's discuss this, let's make a call. That's how you network. You don't network by writing to random people. You network by being social in person. And then, of course, I can understand why you would want to write messages within your network to keep them active. I understand that. But does it have to take 5 hours a day? Really? I don't think so. The sixth argument that I hear people say is that they have a niche interest and so they feel welcome on the internet. And this is kind of a bad argument, because we wouldn't look. People, generally speaking, get along with other people. The fact that people need niche interests to get along proves that there is genuine and deep hostility between people these days. Because there is so much hostility between people, people need a lot in common in order to have common ground. So actually, niche interests and the existence thereof and the existence of online communities proves that we have serious problems when it comes to socializing. Everyone kind of hates or distrusts each other, which is why we need these massive foundations and these isolated communities, essentially, in order to have some socialization. You understand, right? The seventh, eighth, and ninth argument are going to be about learning. We've just discussed why socializing and social media, messages, streaming, and all these kind of things are actually opposites, how it actually makes you less social. Now we're going to discuss that actually these things don't teach you anything, even though one of the supposed advantages is that they teach. Let's start with argument, or rather, let's continue with argument number 7. I have a 5-hour screen time because I learned so much. I learned so much from social media. I'm gonna get tired of learning. I'm gonna learn so much, and I can't stop learning. This was not so good impression, but yeah. Anyway, when people say that they learn something from social media, from streaming or whatever, they are probably very retarded, because if it was true that social media and that streaming and that messages teach you something, then the people who scroll the most should have the highest IQs. But it's not hard to tell that the people who scroll the most tend to have the lowest IQs. So no, these things don't make you smarter. And now you may be saying, well, but I do learn some fun fact here and there from that YouTube short or from the long form videos. The thing is, that's also a scam, because I can tell you something. Back in 2014, when I was 7 years old or so, I got a book with fun facts and contained fun facts like, does being on your phone reduce sperm count? Why don't we throw nuclear junk into the sun? And all these kinds of crazy, like, fun fact things. The difference between a YouTube short and that book is that 12 years later, I still remember it. And also, I remember it because it probably spent not 30 seconds or even 10 minutes on a topic, but for every fun fact, it had between 500 to 2000 words. So you spent close to 10 or even 15 minutes reading about it. And the difference between a 10-minute video or a 15-minute video and a 2000 text, a 2000 word text, is that when you don't get it, when you don't understand the text that you've just read, you read it again. But with videos, no one actually scrolls back to understand it properly. This is one of the reasons why comprehension on screens is just so much lower than in printed version. Another argument is that the videos these days just have become really shallow and very watered down in general. Because I can tell you, when I was 7, I was reading these texts. The 7-year-olds these days, they're only interested wherever. It's insane how much. It's insane just how much everything has degenerated over the last 1 or 2 decades, but especially in the last 5 years. It's unbelievable. Anyone who argues that they learn something from scrolling is exactly the same as the person who says that they're married because they pay for nudes every month. It's just pathetic. No, it doesn't work. The 8th argument is that, while I agree that short form videos and even longer videos don't necessarily teach, but I watch podcasts and edutainment and educational content, and that teaches so much. Well, let me tell you something. I can name the last 20 books that I've read. I can't name the last 3 podcasts that I've listened to. And so, the comprehension in podcasts, next to the fact that a lot of podcasts are just very, very low quality, the comprehension and the memory and the understanding of these podcasts is just significantly lower than that of a printed physical book. There are several reasons why. I won't get into them. It is just this way, and it probably always will be. So the person who watches a lot of podcasts, especially if their life doesn't get better, is coping. It doesn't work like that. And with edutainment and with learning apps and personalized learning, which would be argument number 9, it's all a scam. Because when it comes to learning, it has to be difficult. It has to be frustrating. If learning is neither difficult or frustrating, it's like going to the gym, but you don't actually train till your muscles get sore. The pain of frustration and of repetition is what forces your brain to adapt. So, in the same way, the pain of repetition and the pain of the weights being heavy is what forces your muscles to get bigger. Trying to learn from edutainment or educational content in general or even the learning apps does not work, because they try to get rid of that frustration, they try to get rid of that silence by adding all these animations, streaks, advertisements, and all that bullshit. Let me tell you something. My first business that I worked on from 13 years old to 16 years old, it was a math learning app. And I can tell you that the design of an app is not about actually teaching something, but about making the user watch 2 to 5 advertisements a day. Because when the user watches 2 to 5 advertisements a day and you have 1 million users, you make about 7 to 10 million euros a year, which is an immense sum. And so it would make sense why people would design their apps to be as addictive as possible. Not only the learning apps, but also the social media apps. They all do the same. They all want to be as addictive as possible, because otherwise people just don't use them. Right? So I agree that we can't solely blame the social media and the internet and the video game companies, because people want to be addicted. People want to be addicted, but nevertheless, this is not the way to learn. The way to learn is boring, is frustrating, is difficult, is slow. It's not fun, animated, effortless, everyday. It's not that. It is frustrating and difficult and boring. And when it comes to edutainment, podcasts, fun facts, and all these kinds of things, just read books. Just read books. That's it. That's the only tip that I can give you, because books are just infinitely superior to podcasts or to edutainment or to all these things. And you don't even have to read like difficult books or books on how to make your life better. You can just read literature as well, or philosophy, or anything. Anything is better than scrolling, because scrolling not only makes you stupid, but also makes your emotions worse, makes you less social, makes you less athletic. Just everything gets worse when you scroll. You can, of course, consume tutorials, because tutorials usually are really helpful. And there is, of course, also another exception, which is that math videos and programming videos are usually really, really good at explaining things. Much better than some books can be, because books typically are too formal. And the videos sometimes are really intuitive and really great, and they visualize things exceptionally well. But if you're not watching tutorials or math videos or programming videos, and also then implement these tutorials, you are wasting your time, right? Argument number 10, 11, and 12 are regarding societal stuff and the big picture. A lot of people admit that they struggle with social media and with the internet and with porn and with all these things. But they say that overall, the internet still has some advantages. And I want to debunk those as well. Let's get started. Argument number 10. I waste 5 hours a day online because the internet is full of knowledge, and knowledge is now democratic. Everyone can access it all the time. This is obviously nonsense, because people learn less than ever. If you don't believe me, watch a debate from 1960 or so, or from even 1940, and watch the debate from today, and you will see that people have become significantly stupider. And it's not, you don't need a study to prove this, even though there are studies that prove that people have become more stupid. You can just see it for yourself. People, even average people back in 1960, 1970, they had arguments so deep that now it would be considered a philosophical genius almost. Right? But not only that, not only the fact that people learn less than ever, but actually the people who should learn the most, the ones that are poor, learn the least. Both Both across countries and within countries, the poor people have the highest screen times. For instance, while the average screen time is 4.5 hours a day, in the Philippines or in Brazil, it's more like 10 hours. So that means the people in the Philippines spend more time on social media and on messages and on playing video games than they do sleeping, which is crazy. So the people who should learn the most actually learn the least. So no, democratization of knowledge is an illusion. That's a talking point that the people in favor of the internet say because it sounds well, because in theory it's true, everyone can learn more, but in practice, people learn less and less, and especially the ones that are poor learn even less. So it's not becoming democratic, it's becoming more of an oligarchy. The people who can discipline themselves, they learn more and more, whereas everyone else learns less and less. Then there's also the phenomenon of the shallow internet, which is the fact that you do have a lot of content on the internet, but most of it is incredibly repetitive and also very shallow on top of that. And basically, no one scrolls down to press the link number 38 or so. The people press the second, the first, and the third link, and that's it. And all of them are probably very shallow because they're optimized for short readability rather than giving you deep knowledge. And so, while in theory, democratic knowledge, in practice, the internet is incredibly shallow and people just waste a lot of time on it. And by the way, I also wrote down, people somehow learned skills also before the internet, so it is clearly possible to learn. So it's not like the internet suddenly is this great online school. Of course, there are some genuinely great educational resources. But what a lot of people forget is that people have learned before that as well, right? Now, the 11th argument is really popular and it's really false. I have a 5-hour screen time because economic efficiency and global innovation. First, global innovation. What global innovation do we have right now? What global innovation do we have? We have surveillance technology. We have artificial intelligence. We have data centers. We have robotics. We have chips in the brain that read your thoughts. Is this the global innovation everyone is talking about? Is this it? Because if that's the global innovation, then fuck it. We don't need surveillance technology. We don't need artificial intelligence. We don't need chips that go in our brain. We don't need those things because those come at the expense of our soul and our well-being. And who cares if we get 5% richer in the result? Who cares if we lose everything that makes us human? If we lose the connection between us, if we lose our creativity, if we lose our spiritual lives, if we lose all these things but get 5% richer? Who cares? Who needs this global innovation? Who needs it if that's the price? If the price is your soul, essentially. If the price was your soul, but you gain the world, I can understand why people would make that deal. Even though, of course, you're not supposed to make it. But the reward, in theory, is getting like 5% richer. And that's, in my opinion, a really terrible deal. And also, this argument that people get a little bit richer is just not true, because we are poorer than our parents. And our children will be poorer than us. And so, in theory, we have this global innovation and we have this economic efficiency. But you're not getting the positive out of it. you're getting extracted from, and someone else gets the profit of the economic efficiency, but it's not you. And so when people say economic efficiency and global innovation, you are not getting those things because you are getting worse quality of life. Someone else may be getting those benefits, and even then I doubt it, because when artificial intelligence is gonna replace all of us, if it ever will do that, which probably it kind of will, even then, do the people who created this technology really have brilliant lives? Do they really have loving families and great spiritual lives and great physiques and all that stuff? Probably no. So even the people who create this technology, do not really profit from it. So who does? Well, kind of no one. But still, global innovation, economic efficiency. The 12th argument that I hear is that social media gives voices to marginalized people, and therefore I am justified to have a 5-hour screen time. And just like with the economic efficiency, with the global innovation, with the democratization of knowledge, it's just not true. Because look, in theory, the people have a voice, everyone can write something, therefore everyone can point to injustices and the world becomes paradise. In practice, we observe the exact opposite. People are more divided than ever. People are more censored than ever. People are bombarded with propaganda all the time. So instead of getting social justice, whether that's good or bad is another topic, we get propaganda, censorship, and division. So, social media for the marginalized people is not really valid because they're marginalized in part because of the internet, because there's so much hate and division, because there's so many problems, because people are wasting their lives scrolling rather than actually doing something. This is why we have those problems and not. So, the internet is the problem, or at least very much part of the problem, and not the solution. It could be the solution, but not in this world right now. It's not. It's the problem. And yeah. Now let's talk about argument 13, 14, and 15. Because a lot of people say that they need these internet things to rest. And just like with the learning, this is a really ridiculous argument. Let's discuss argument number 13. I waste 5 hours online every day because that is relaxing. If it were true that social media and the internet and watching porn and playing video games were relaxing, then the people who use those things the most should have the most stable psychologies. But they don't. We observe the exact opposite. The people who use these things the most tend to have the worst mental health. And so, no, it's not relaxing. And the neuroscience, once again, is very clear here. And you can try this yourself, by the way. Take an IQ test in the morning, the first thing you do, and look at what the result says. And then scroll for 4.5 hours, because that's what the average person does each day. And then take another IQ test. And you will see the difference is massive. So no, it does not rest you, because if it were to rest you, you would become more calm, more rational, more focused, more emotionally regulated. But instead, it does the opposite. It stirs up our emotions, especially the negative ones, and it makes us foggy in our mind. It makes us unable to think. Argument number 14. I have a 5-hour screen time because technology is neutral. It depends on how we use it. It's not inherently good or bad, evil or virtuous. It depends on how we use it. Really? Because I believe that evil exists. My personal experiences tell me that there is evil in this world, and a lot of it. And that it's not what it seems. The world is not material. It has, in fact, a very spiritual component. Because the fact that people continue scrolling after they know that it is suffering cannot be explained by neurochemistry, because otherwise, if it no longer rewards you, why do people continue scrolling? It is clearly, or rather, has clearly a spiritual component to it. And there is evil in this world. And let me tell you, the main prayer of Christianity contains the line, "Do not lead us into temptation and deliver us from the evil one." So very clearly, there is evil in this world. And whether you believe in it or not doesn't really matter, because you can see it. And so saying that technology is neutral completely dismisses all of that, what's going on in the background. Of course, email doesn't have to waste time. Of course, writing messages doesn't have to waste your life. Of course, the videos on the internet don't have to make you more stupid. Of course, the creators don't have to be evil. But I would say evil is disproportionately represented there. And so there are things that are good and evil. There are these things. And I would say that especially porn, video games, and anime are evil. And also gambling. And also dating apps. Those technologies are purely evil. There's, of course, email that is good or bad, or streaming can be good or bad, because if you do it with friends, it's probably okay and it's even desirable at some point. But everything else is just evil, right? And now let's discuss argument number 15. I have a 5-hour screen time because that's just how things are these days, and I make money this way. The problem is, no one forces you to scroll. You can just record content, for instance, like I do, and upload it. No one can force you to watch. Your will is still free, even though you're probably, or you think that you need this internet stuff to make money. Do it. But still, that doesn't mean that you need to scroll on it and that you need to waste all this time and mental energy on it. I personally am not online, and yet you can see me uploading videos. Why not do that too? Why not do this stuff for your business offline, then upload them, and then not spend the rest of the day online? Why not do that? Why is it that so many people who say that they need the internet to make money constantly keep scrolling? Probably because they're addicted. But it's not necessary. It's not necessary for me. It's not necessary for any other influencer. It's not necessary. And so even if that's just how things are these days, and that you make money this way, you don't have to have a large screen time. You can just do the work and then upload it. And that's it. No need to scroll, no need to be addicted, no need to play video games, no need to watch porn, no need to gamble, no need to watch anime. You can just upload and that's it. And then spend the rest of the day reading, working, socializing, going to the mountains, and doing these things. You don't need to have a large screen time. There is no law that says that if you make money online, that you then need to scroll all day. There is no spiritual, moral, physical, social law, or anything like that that says that you must do it. Scrolling and being addicted is always a choice. Always. Without exception. So to summarize this video, What we were promised with the internet and with social media and with streaming it with messages is unity, productivity, growth, connection, and meaning, and creativity. And yet what we got is division, loneliness, wasted time, and minds that have been numbed. And so I would conclude that therefore all these different internet things are a net negative to society, and we should work on them. We should rethink primarily our relationship with those things. And then think a bit bigger. Why is it that 100,000 lives are being wasted on that stuff every day? Why is it? What can be done about it? And so, I would say, in order to not fall victim to this social media and internet and porn kind of stuff, just don't use it. It's of course easier said than done. I have other videos on how to do it, and I will also of course upload other videos on how to do it. But I would say the only things that you are allowed to do that are not evil, let's say, and are not making you addicted is, let's say, writing to your friends, hey, let's meet. It's making calls. It's watching 1 to 2 YouTubers every once in a while. It's writing emails. It's uploading to social media. It's automating workflows. Those things, and reading research papers, those things are genuinely good. But the rest is evil. It's useless. It's wasting your time. It's stripping you of your energy and your attention. And it's just making your life worse in every conceivable way. And so, I hope that this video helped you to gain more clarity and to understand just how harmful most of these technologies are. My goal is to inspire 10,000 good decisions. And if this video helped you, subscribe and I'll see you in the next one.